dolphins and whales, fish. A fish is essentially a cold-blooded vertebrate, which is characterized by a slender body, heart with 2 chambers, gills, fins, and scales. Unlike marine animals, a fish doesn't have to reach the surface of water to breathe, but does so with feather tissue membranes, referred to as gills. A fish breathes in water with gills which extract oxygen from the surrounding water. However, dolphins and whales are mammals, as they breathe in air, using lungs, and they give birth to their young ones and also feed their young ones. Their nature to take in oxygen from the air also gives them a distinguished identity from fish. Mammals have noses in the middle of their heads, also called as blowholes, which shut down when whales and dolphins are in the water and otherwise open up to take in fresh air to breathe, which is high in oxygen. Can you hear sound in space? Sound travels in a medium which can be solid, liquid, or gas. Sound travels as it vibrates the molecules of that medium and reaches the ear of the human being. Space, on the other hand, is a vacuum with no medium that can help sound to propagate. Space does not have gas, solid, or liquid as a medium. However, you can argue on the content of gas, which is very less per cubic centimeter and cannot help sound to travel. But in space, nobody can hear any sound. It's totally silent. This may be unexpected of the fact that the Hollywood space movies used to show how the sounds of explosion of one spaceship affect the other, or for that matter, gun firing in space. You must have now understood space better and the unreal effects, which only make the movie a lot more interesting and entertaining. Can a fish drown when in water? Fish remain alive in water as they take in oxygen from their gills, just as human beings take in oxygen with the help of lungs. Since the content of oxygen can reduce in the water, fish sometimes suffocate and drown in water. Small fish ponds dry up frequently, giving way to fish drowning, as it has so many fishes that fight for oxygen content. In underwater fights or collision, damaged gills stop fish to take most of the oxygen, leading to drowning. Low levels of oxygen in the pond force fish to go up to the surface and intake oxygen from the air. In fish, the air they take from the oxygen is stored in a sac-like organ called air bladder. This, however, is not possible in extremely cold conditions, as the upper layers are frozen and fish cannot go up to breathe. Can lemon water really help lose weight? Lemons are taken in morning by most of people with warm water, with the belief that they can reduce their weight. And it is not baseless. Actually, a lemon contains citric acid in it, and when we intake it, it helps the body to absorb calcium into its fat cells. As more calcium is absorbed into its fat cells, as much weight loses. Secondly, as it is rich in citric acid, but when it goes in our body during metabolism process, it interacts with other acids and enzymes and produces alkalizing effect. So a problem-free digestion can be gained, which again leads to weight loss. Our food contains sugars, which are absorbed by a lemon because of the presence of citric acid in it. So again, weight is lost. In short, even a little lemon intake can help you lose your weight. Can salt harm us? We add salt in our daily food to make it tasty. A few people even use it to intake it more, in addition to taking salty food too. Salt is actually sodium chloride, which helps prevent the growth of bacteria, yeast, molds, etc. in food. It also helps reduce the perception of dryness in foods like crackers, etc. One side, it helps in this way, but on the other side, if it will be taken in amount, more than medically recommended, it can cause diseases like high blood pressure, heart stroke, etc. As per the guidelines of 2010 Dietary for Americans, sodium should be taken in less than 2300 milligrams a day. But if you are at the age of 51 or more, take it in only 1500 milligrams amount. Dark complexioned people or people having disease of heart attack or diabetes, kidney disease, etc. should also avoid excess intake of salt in their food. Can sunlight be harmful? Generally, we used to say that it is the sun which gives us vitamin D to keep us healthy, but we can't ignore the fact that on extra exposure to sunlight, our health can be destroyed too. Actually, sunlight contains invisible UVs, ultraviolet rays, which can cause tanning, burning, and even skin cancer too on reaching us. In sunlight, 3 types of UV rays are present, called UVA, UVB, and UVC. When we expose to UVA rays, much skin aging and wrinkling can be caused. Skin cancer, called melanoma, can also be the consequence. UVB rays can cause sunburns, cataract, etc. Those rays can affect the immune system of body too. And last but not least, UVC rays are the most dangerous form of sunlight. We are really lucky that ozone layer is there, which blocks it to reach the earth, and we are safe. Why don't water and oil mix? We all know well that water and oil can never be mixed. Water is actually made of various tiny hydrogen and oxygen molecules, charged positively and negatively respectively. And as both charges are there, so it's obvious that they will attract each other and stick together. Such molecules with positive charge at one end and negative charge at another end are called polar molecules. And in such molecules, only hydrophilic substances can get mixed. On the other hand, oil is made of hydrocarbon chains. Molecules in oil are also charged, but spread out more evenly. So oil is a water-fearing substance and non-polar in nature. On mixing water to oil, water molecules do not find negative charged molecules in oil to connect to its positively charged molecules, so they don't get mixed with it. Do birds have tongues? If you have not noticed a bird's tongue before, here is the needed insight. Birds do have tongues, but they are not so functional as humans. The tongue of a bird has bones, unlike a human's, which is a muscle, and therefore less mobile than ours. Different types of birds have different shapes of tongues. For example, the woodpecker has a pointed tongue, so that it may easily take in small insects. Birds that feed on nectar are often seen having tube-shaped tongues, so that they may easily suck in without much effort. The special design of the tongue is to suit the food habits or the feed of the bird. Pink, brown, and black tongue can be found if you just carefully watch a bird open its mouth. Do fish drink water? It really seems strange that fish drink water, but it's true. However, all fish don't drink, and which drink not because of being thirsty, but to maintain their body concentration. Actually, the principle of osmosis is the basis of such activity. Freshwater fish have high salt concentration in their bodies, as per the osmosis movement of the liquid, taking place from lower to higher concentration. Fish have to excrete water up to 10 times of their body weight, whereas in case of saltwater fish, their surrounding water is of very high salt concentration. So they actually drink a huge quantity of water, otherwise they can be hydrated. Freshwater fish only imbibe water so that they may respire by drawing oxygen from it. and release such through their gills. They also urinate in a large quantity so that their body tissues may be prevented from being watery. Do plants have eyes? Most of us believe plants live and also make their own food. But how they see the world? Plants do not have eyes but are sensitive to sunlight. The leaves of the plant make food with sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and nutrients from the soil. The green pigment in the leaves, called chlorophyll, detects sunlight and absorbs it to make food. Even though they do not have eyes, flowers are able to detect the light. One such flower is the sunflower, which faces the sun by detecting its direction of light. Sunflowers are called heliotropes because they move towards the sun. Plants do not have brains like human beings that tell them about the intensity or the source of light. They have sensors that make us believe that plants have eyes, but they instead have special light receptors which absorb light for growth and nutrition. Do snakes drink milk? Snakes are sometimes taken as pious creatures in certain communities, so people offer them milk. Especially on Nag Panchami, you must have seen people feeding milk to snakes. But in reality, snakes don't take milk. Snakes just lick milk because of their thirst and not take as their food, because before such festivals, snake charmers give them nothing to eat or drink. Snakes are strict carnivorous reptiles and they also have very small capacity to intake liquid. They do not intake any vegetables, grains, fruit or milk. Don't intake any dietary food. However, it is a true fact that snakes drink water, and we cannot ignore the fact that in a dehydrating situation, they can drink any liquid, be it milk or something else. If you really want to offer them something, give them water to drink, as they really drink it. Do you know how Google came in existence? Google is now the widely popular internet search engine, but how it started is not known by all. Google was actually started by Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who met each other as students in science program at Stanford. It was earlier just started as a research project in 1996 with the name of Backrub, but later in 1997 they gave it the name of Google Inc. Later, Andy Bechtolsheim, son, co-founder, financed the Google with a check of $100,000. Then Google set up its first office in friend Susan Wojcik garage, located at Santa Margarita, Menlo Park. They hired then their first employee, Craig Silverstein, who was a science graduate student of Stanford University. The domain google.com was registered on 15 September 1997. Google then never looked back. From where did the word Google come? Google is actually derived from the term Google. It is actually a mathematical term which means 1 followed by 100 zeros. This term was invented by Milton Sirota, who was nephew of American mathematician Edward Kazner. This term was used in book Mathematics and the Imagination, written by Edward Kazner and James Newman. The term Google was used as a participle on 8 July 1998 by Google co-founder Larry Page in a mail. He wrote, "Have fun and keep Googling." However, on 26 October 2006, a request was sent to the whole public that Google term can be used only if they actually refer Google Inc. and their services, otherwise not. The name Google was not taken abruptly, but with a name by Google owners Sergey Brin and Larry Page. The aim was to organize a vast amount of information available on web. Really, the Google has fulfilled such aim very nicely. Do you know what tears are? A report says that whether male or female, they must cry once at least in month. And when we cry, tears come out. Tears are actually produced in lacrimal glands near the eyes and consist of water, mucus and oil. In tears, several hormones exist and prolactin is one of them, which regulates the moods of the person. Tears are of three types. First is basal, which comes out to moisten our eyes. Second one is reflex, which comes out to flush our eyes. And the last one is emotional tears, which are related with our sadness, anger, etc. Tears, when come out because of physical pain or emotional pain, the body responds the same way. Generally, people think that tears are the signs of weakness, but in reality, people whose tears come out from time to time are healthier than non-criers. So it is really good to cry. Do you know when Olympic Games started and how? Olympic game, which is also called Pan-Hellenic Games, was firstly held in 776 BC in Olympia, Greece, and continued till Theodosius I stopped it after 393 AD. It was then restarted after 1503 years in 1896 by Baron Pierre de Coubertin, and from that time it is held every 4 years and lasts for 1 week. Earlier, it was not taken as just a game, but was a religious festival to honor god Zeus. In initial 13 Olympic Games, only sprint was the event, but later more events were added from time to time. It is also said that Olympic Games started with mission to bring peace, as in Olympic game events, any person of any city, state, etc. can take part and win. Even enemy states were allowed to participate. However, in Olympic game events, women were not allowed to participate, but now they can too. Do you know why men go bald? On a man's head, around 1 lakh to 1,50,000 hairs are found, which gets lost in old age, but a few starts going bald from the age of 32. There are various reasons behind such, like privilege, gender, power, youth, etc. In males, generally, baldness appears on the front side, which is called androgenetic alopecia. It is caused by the presence of DTH, a byproduct of testosterone. This hormone a person gets from his mother or father. It means it gets transferred genetically. DTH is mainly made of estrogen, and to save the person from being bald, the level of estrogen is required to increase. Exposure to chemicals, some medical treatments like chemotherapy, poisons, and mainly the high stress, including emotional depression and trauma, are the other reasons to make a person bald. Diseases like hypothyroidism, seborrhea, hypothyroidism, dermatitis, etc. also cause severe hair loss and a person become too bald. Do you know why the moon has spots on it? Beauty is always compared with the moon, and it has a spot on it. The moon contains both. Earlier it was believed that dark patches on the moon are actually a large sea, and so they named it Maria. But in reality, on the moon, water is not found. These dark patches are actually because of rock called basalt, which forms when lava gets cooled off and hardens later. These spots were caused when in past, at time of planet formation in the universe, the moon faced heavy bombardment. The thing which struck the moon was big enough, so a large impact basin was created, which was later flooded with hot volcano lava. Later, such lava cooled off and dark patches formed. Such patches cover 70% of the moon's surface, and at present mostly on such part of the moon which faces the earth. The light-colored parts on the moon's surface are actually high ground of a rock anorthosite. Do you know how much strong eggshells are? You must be known to the fact that it is the eggshells which protect growing chickens. It is used for protection purpose. It means they are strong. But to which extent is really a less known fact. The eggshells are the outer covering made up of fertilized gamete, which locates on the yolk surface and is surrounded by albumin. Chicken eggshells are seen to be 95 to 97% calcium carbonate crystals and are stabilized by a protein matrix. The structure and composition of eggshells is of very strong nature, because of which they protect chickens inside them. An eggshell protects against microbial contamination, regulation of gas, water change for growing embryo, prevention of desiccation, etc. It allows the chick to get oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. Eggshells are also strong enough because of their dome shape. Such dome shape distributes the weight at the top to all parts of eggshells, so weight is balanced rightly. How do we taste food? Taste is actually a chemical sense which is perceived by the receptor cells of the taste buds present on tongue. Our tongue actually is divided into 4 different types of papillae, which are also called bumps. In each papilla, 50 to 250 taste buds exist, and the taste buds consist of 15 to 20 taste receptor cells, which link with nerve fibers to communicate the taste impulse to brain. A few taste buds are also present in throat and on the soft palate at the back of mouth. Our tongue can detect 4 types of basic tastes, that is sweet, sour, bitter and savory. When we intake food, its chemical components get their way to taste buds, and in this way we feel that taste. As much we grow older, we lose our capacity to taste food, because taste receptors, which casually renewed after 7 days, start deceasing slowly. How can a cactus live without water? Plants need water to survive, which is an idea we are probably already familiar with. Cactuses are thrifty plants that live in dry regions. They may not get much moisture where they live, but they manage to make the most of what they do get. Cactuses, sometimes also called cacti, are types of plants called succulent and are best known for living in hot, dry places like the desert, where they do not get a lot of water. Cactuses do need some water to survive, but can get along with a lot less than most plants. One reason cactuses can get along with less water is because they don't have leaves. So the water a cactus drinks does not evaporate as much as the water other plants drink. Additionally, cactuses have thick stalks which allow them to store water for a long time, and roots that are good at finding and soaking up water even when it is scarce. How is curd formed? We take curd in almost our daily diet, but do you know how it is really done? Actually, it can help you digest your food as well as can give taste to your mouth. To make curd, the solid and liquid part of milk are required to be separated. So after warming the milk, starter cultures are added to it, which contains many types of bacteria, including Streptococcus, Thermophilus and Lactobacillus helveticus. These are called LAB, lacto-acid bacteria, because of the production of lactic acid. Because of such bacteria, acidity level in milk rises and the casein starts curdling. The temperature also matters much in the formation of curd from milk. The higher temperature can convert milk into curd fast after adding vinegar, lime juice or starter culture to it. Such formation of curd is called fermentation, because in this process bacteria get fermented in the milk. How do parrots talk? Parrots have been loved as pets. Their colors and the way they speak are one of the factors that people love them. Parrots imitate what others speak. They do not form words or know meanings, but speak what they listen to. Parrots speak words which are formed differently from the way humans form them. They form words and simulate sounds by using their throat muscles and directing the flow of air so that they may take out the noises that they have learnt. Difficult to understand for human beings, parrots have been tracing the voice they have learnt or listened to. Usually animals do not speak and have voices or language of their own, but parrots are seen as birds which speak similar to humans. Parrots do not have vocal cords, lips or tongues to speak like human beings, but they learn the voice and follow similarly. How do birds sit on power lines? How does it happen that a bird on a wire doesn't get shocked? When the bird perches on a live wire, its body becomes charged. For the moment, it's at the same voltage as the wire, but no current flows into its body. Electricity must have a path in order to travel. A power line is an ideal path. So when electricity is running through this wiring, an animal sitting on top of it does not interrupt the electrical flow. A body is a poor conductor compared to copper wire. So there's no reason for electrons to take a detour through the bird. However, if a bird were to have one foot on one wire and the other foot on another wire, electricity would travel from wire to wire through the bird's body and the bird would be electrocuted. While many birds are too small to straddle two wires, unfortunately, there are some times when larger birds are electrocuted in this very way. How does photosynthesis take place? Photosynthesis is the process of grasping light energy and converting it into chemical energy in plants. In other words, we can also say photosynthesis is the breathing process of plants. It is just the right opposite to human breathing system. Humans inhale oxygen and release carbon dioxide, whereas plants take carbon dioxide in and give out oxygen. In Hindu tradition, some cultures even worship trees or plants just because they are providing us with oxygen, which we live in to be alive. Plants absorb light, break it into molecules by chemical process, utilize a part of it which makes plants alive, and releases out the carbon dioxide. In this process, water is also produced as a byproduct, which is used by plants for their nutrition. This is the process of converting light energy into chemical energy with the release of oxygen and sometimes water at the surface of plants. How is zygote formed? Zygote is the basic cell formation in any cellular organism, which leads to the development of multicellular organisms. It is formed when two gametes combine together by sexual reproduction. In single-cell organisms, these are the main component of the organisms, which are later divided into two to form offspring. Zygote is the embryo which later develops into an infant of a multicellular animal. Zygote is formed in all the animals and the plants. Without the formation of the zygote, the offspring cannot be produced. In plants, zygote is produced in a small chamber, which is a long flask shaped with hollow tubular structure. In animals, after the fertilization of the egg, the zygote becomes a combination of cells after a number of cell divisions. It travels into the fallopian tube, where the zygote grows by mitosis and meiosis cell division. A two-parental zygote or a biparental zygote is a zygote which contains the DNA of both the parents. How do frogs breathe? Breathing is the process of taking in oxygen from surrounding and giving out carbon dioxide. The breathing process is different in different animals like in reptiles, mammals, birds, aquatic animals, etc. Frogs just after birth are called tadpoles. They breathe through gills and skin. It sounds weird, but this is a part of incredible nature. When they grow into land animals, they start breathing from the lungs. Whatever the stage of a frog is, all the breathing is regulated by the throat. Tadpoles lose their gills when they become frogs, and this is called metamorphosis, which is the process of converting from an immature to an adult. Frogs do not open their mouths while breathing. The temperature also affects the frog's breathing process. There are a few hairy frogs also, categorized under frogs, and they breathe through lungs. Frogs can also breathe by the skin. This also helps them to stay in the water. How does wood catch fire? A chemical reaction that occurs between wood, fuel and oxygen when the fuel used reaches the ignition point is called fire. Ignition point of a substance means the temperature at which the reaction occurs. When wood starts to heat using some external source, the cellulose material that is present in the wood decomposes, which then releases volatile gas known as smoke. The gas produced later are broken into molecules which combine to form oxygen, carbon dioxide and other gases continue to burn. The chemical reaction thus caused produces new heat which maintains the ignition temperature of the fuel and the oxygen. The heat produced can spread to other fuels as well as gases, thus spreading fire. Shape of fuel and amount of energy released during combustion decide the speed and effect of the fuel burnt. It should be understood that fire released from different fuels behave differently. How do eyebrows protect eyes? Eyebrows protect eyes because they serve the function of keeping the dust far aside from eyes. They also keep dirt falling away from eyes. Another function is to keep sweat away from eyes. Due to eyebrows, humans find easy to make various expressions of the face, and they effectively show the expression of anger, happiness and surprise, etc. Eyebrows also protect eyes from the light as they reduce the amount of light directly falling into eyes. Some of the other absolute reason for growing eyebrows for a lady is their beauty, because humans are the most creative living beings among all creatures. For a baby to wash her eyebrows play a vital role from protecting its eyes from chemical substance of shampoo. For the human gestures, eyebrows have a main portion for all humans. Hence, in all aspects, eyelashes improve the facial beauty and make best possible shape for the human face. How are fruits ripened artificially? We really feel impatient sometimes to eat our favorite fruits in off seasons. In this way, sometimes we invite several diseases because such fruit may be artificially ripened by calcium carbide (CaC2), which can really affect our health. Calcium carbide is wrapped in some cloth and then is kept in a box where fruit is also kept. Here, chemical reaction takes place because of moisture present in fruit, and acetylene gas produces which accelerates the ripening process in fruit. Such ripened fruit no doubt looks more appealing to eyes, but in reality tastes not so good as the naturally ripened fruit does. Calcium carbide also contains some amount of arsenic and phosphorus, so a fruit ripened by it can cause diseases like cancer, abnormalities, etc. In most of the countries, it is banned. How does hair protect the skin? In a human being, hair plays a very important role in the overall standard of his living life. Hairstyles are made of 3 main layers which protect the skull skin of the head. Hair is also protecting skin from the sun rays and from chlorine of the water, which affects the skin of the skull. Different hairstyles can be made to fit for the human face so that everyone may look beautiful and handsome. Hair also hides some of the cuts or spots in the forehead of human faces. Apart from humans, Talking about the animals, especially dogs, cat and others like cows, hair protects them from various climate coldness and hotness. It protects and hides their any wounds and cuts from exposure to the air and environment. Dirt and dust can make their skins affected to injuries, which is cured and protected by hair in their whole body. So hair is very important part of the body in humans as well as animals. How does a human heart work? The heart is the central controlling unit of a body. This is the heart which is responsible for a human life. Its working means you have life. If it's not, you are dead. The heart is a muscle that centrally regulates the whole body. The heart has 4 chambers, also called valves, 2 upper and 2 lower. These valves expand and contract to take and release blood from and to the body. The functioning is classified into 2 stages. In the first stage, upper chambers contracts and sends the blood to the lower chambers. The 4 chambers are named as right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. The blood is pushed from the right atrium to the right ventricle and from the left atrium to the left ventricle. In the second stage, this blood is pushed out of the heart. Right after this activity, the heart relaxes and gets ready to take in blood again. This continues further. How are ulcers formed in stomach? An ulcer is involved in the body of the human being in the gastrointestinal part. It is also known as the duodenal ulcers, which occur in the small intestine just below the stomach of the human body. The ulcers which are present in the stomach are known as gastric ulcers. The ulcers that are present in the stomach are not contagious. This disease affects many people, approximately 1 million of people in the American state in each year. The ulcers that are found in the stomach must have a range of the middle of the 1/8 of the inch, which goes up to 3/4 of an inch. Many people can easily develop stomach ulcers or bleeding from stomach ulcers. The person who remains untreated for this disease, bleeding from the stomach can occur in his body. How is double fertilization done? Double fertilization is a phenomenon which occurs in plants. It is a really complex mechanism in which the female embryo sac combines with 2 male gametes. The stigma of the female part of the reproduction system of the flower, called the carpel, is adhered to a pollen grain. This is the beginning of the process of double fertilization. The pollen grain germinates and forms a pollen tube which enters the ovary through the style. This pollen tube now releases 2 male gametes in the embryo sac. One of the male gametes starts fertilizing the egg, while the other combines with the central part or the nuclei of the mega gametophyte. A large triploid nucleus is formed by the combination of the 2 polar nuclei of the embryo sac, and a diploid zygote is formed by 2 half gametes and the half eggshells. The ovary now develops into a fruit which preserves the seeds for further reproduction. How is grafting done? Grafting is a process in which the tissues or the cells of one plant are fused into the another plant so that they both may be joined together to form vascular joining. This is known as inosculation. One of the plants is chosen for its roots, and this is called the stalk. The other is chosen for its flowers, stems, fruits and leaves. This is called the scion. The scion has the genes which are desired in the grafting plants. Grafting can be done by a number of methods like budding, cleft, approach, whip, stub, etc. For grafting to take place successfully, the scion and stalk vascular tissue must come into contact for sufficient amount of time, and the joint needs to be very firm until the whole grafting takes place, as the grafted area is quite weak as compared to other areas on plants. It usually takes a time of a few weeks to perform grafting. How does the kidney fail? The kidney is one of the most essential parts of the body which filters blood. and helps get rid of waste products. This bean-shaped body part also helps balance electrolyte level, controlling the blood pressure and in stimulation of production of red blood cells. It mainly fails because of diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. and gives symptoms of tiredness, weakness, appetite loss. It can also lead to diseases like anemia, heart disease, renal bone disease. Actually, nephrons are attacked by kidney diseases and so they fail in filtering the waste from blood. Nephrons can also be damaged by poisoning or injury. Hereditary factors are also responsible. Even the nephrons of a child in womb can also be damaged and the normal functioning of the kidney can be affected. As a result of genetic disorder too, cysts grow in the kidney and replace its mass and later affect its functioning too and cause its failure. How does the liver help in the human body? The liver is the main organ of the body because it supports or helps other organs of the body to work properly. Its location is at the bottom of the body and also for its multidimensional function that occurs in the body of the human being. Many diseases occur by the liver like swelling in the abdomen, feet, etc. because of the liver as it fails to make the albumin which is helpful for the body of the human being. The diseases which occur in the liver function can be caused due to the arrangement or the processes of the liver. Sometimes liver can be damaged and sometimes it has to be transplanted from one body to another body. The first transplantation was done by the doctor of the United States named as Thomas Charles and the another doctor of Cambridge of England named as Roy Calne in the years 1963 and 1965 respectively. How is LPG formed? LPG is used in almost all homes as a fuel in heating appliances and also used in vehicles as autogas, sometimes as refrigerant and aerosol propellant used too. LPG means liquefied petroleum gas or simply propane. It is called LPG because it remains liquid under moderate pressure and quickly vaporizes upon the release of pressure. At normal temperature and pressure, it can evaporate, and it is the reason why it is stored in steel tanks. Such steel tanks are filled with LPG, only 80 to 85%, and as it is heavier than air, so on the leakage of LPG from cylinder flows along floors and settles down in low spots, which causes suffocation and ignition too. It is produced during the refining of crude oil or is extracted when natural gas methane gets extracted. It is dried and only after that being piped to homes and industry. How does a mobile phone work? Mobile phone is actually a complicated form of radio. When someone dials us, the unique SID system identification code of 5-digit number is checked on control channel. After such, the phone compares SID received and SID programmed into the mobile. Along with SID, a registration request is also sent and MTSO keeps track of our phone location and record. On getting such SID and registration request, MTSO checks in their database to know which cell we are using and picks out frequency pair which our cell needs to receive such call. About such frequency pair, MTSO communicates to the control channel and then finally our phone and tower switch on such frequency pair. Here our call connects and our speech gets converted into electric signals which later modulates to carrier wave and reaches the other person on phone and we talk on phone. How is oxygen useful to living beings? In a human body, oxygen plays a very vital role for living. It has various categories of working in different portions of the human body. Some of the useful roles of oxygen include the retarding of human skin cells and makes the skin fresh and bright. Another main role is that it releases the strain and relieves headache in humans. In the joints, oxygen helps increase the strength of tiredness. It makes the human body tight while boosting immune system. More importantly, it helps human breathing and is very useful for curing the patient of asthma and allergies. Fresh oxygen takes out depression from inside the human body. Last but not least, it helps make energy in respiration system. Hence, it improves physical strength up to 25%. It is also useful for other living creatures. Hence, oxygen is useful to all living beings. It is also to be noted that without oxygen, life does not exist on earth. How does pancreas help? Pancreas helps in the digestion of the food in the human body as it produces the juice that is prepared by it. Pancreas also controls the blood and sugar level of the human body by producing the hormone named as insulin and glucagon, which help to control over the sugar level of the body and are also helpful in storage and usage of the energy that human bodies take, such as food, etc. Pancreas is made up of maximum 1 million of clusters named as islets of Langerhans. The main 4 cells are in the islets. Pancreas is also known as a gland, which is 6 inches long and shaped like a pear at its ending part. There is a thick end in the pancreas that is known as the head of the pancreas, and the bottom side is known as the body. How is petrol made? Petrol is actually fossil fuel consisting of complex mixture of hydrocarbons of different molecular weights and other organic compounds found under the Earth's surface. It takes more than 1000 years for oil molecules to form from the remains of creatures which existed millions of years ago, went through some chemical changes and got compressed into sedimentary rock. Later, such compressed rock becomes more compressed because of pressure caused from sea or ocean and by addition of sand and salt to it. Next to that, again chemical changes take place and that gets converted into the combination of hydrogen and carbon, where heat and pressure plays a very important role. In this way, organic matter changes into firstly a waxy material called kerogen and then because of more heat and pressure get converted into liquid and gaseous hydrocarbons, and from such hydrocarbons petroleum occurs, which gives petrol, diesel, etc. after refining it. How do plants reproduce? Plants reproduce by a continual cycle of pollination, fertilization, germination, growth, and reproduction. Most plants make seeds in order to keep their species going. Some plants put stickers on their seeds to make them stick to animals and humans. The flower is the reproductive organ of a flowering plant. Many seed plants form seeds inside flowers. For reproduction to take place, pollen grains from the male stamen must be carried to the female part of the flower, the pistil. 2 ways that flowers are pollinated: by insects and by the wind. The insects like the bright petals and the sweet smell of the flowers. They land on the flowers to drink a liquid called nectar. When bees touch the stamen, pollen sticks to the bees. When the bees move around the flower, pollen is transferred to the pistil. Pollination leads to the making of 1 or more seeds in a flower. When seeds settle, have enough water and have enough space to grow, they start to germinate. Once the seedling starts to grow out of the seed, it also grows roots. It then is a young plant and continues to grow. How is the rainbow formed? Hundreds of years ago, rainbows are thought of as sign of God to foretell heavy rain or war. Many took it as a sign of the bridge between life and death, while the Irish believed that it signifies a gold pot. Because of this natural phenomenon, not known then, it was highly fascinating for kids and onlookers to see such vibrancy in a clear blue sky after heavy rain. Rainbow essentially is the scattering of light through the droplets of water in the atmosphere after heavy rain, when the sky is said to be extremely clear without many clouds. Sunlight enters the atmosphere and the clear droplets are scattered in the spectrum of light, which combines to make a white light, here the source of light or sunlight. Rainbow therefore is very natural and signifies the contents of a white light and its various colors having different frequencies. How is respiration different from breathing? Usually breathing and respiration are known as the same in the human language, but unfortunately in the language of science it has been simply cleared that respiration and breathing are different from each other. Breathing means inhale and exhale of oxygen in a continuing way, in which oxygen is inhaling in the body and carbon dioxide is exhaling from the body. Respiration is a process in which food particles in which carbon-hydrogen bonds combine and can easily break down the food particles by reduction reaction, and the energy produced in the reaction is transformed into the ATP. Hence, breathing is an outer process. It means it takes place from the outer place. Respiration is a chemical process. Hence, it takes place inside the human body. In breathing, the human inhales oxygen which is transferred to the lungs, but respiration takes the oxygen from the lungs to the bloodstream or the cells that are in the human body. How are stomata helpful for leaves? In the layers of the tissues of animals and plants, there is one layer where stomata lie. This layer is epidermal layer. Stomata are helpful for leaves. Rather, we can say to plants in a respiratory system. They allow leaves, or rather a plant, to breathe. Tissues in leaves breathe through stomata pores and then exhale more fresh and bright oxygen. Stomata are also very essential and they need to be experimented, and a lot of experiments are happening on them just to explore more about plant varieties and their growing power with the moisture content in leaves they absorb. As the climate changes, stomata open and close in leaves, and they are also affected by the pollution variations. Each plant has a variation in the size of stomata, and hence they need to be compared as well, because one experiment reveals that size does not change the working of the stomata in leaves. How do stomata help to taste food? Stomata in the leaves of plants are situated in the position at the tip point, that is, at the tip corner with a small opening, which helps the plant to absorb carbon dioxide. They also exhale oxygen out from leaves. This is the food for leaves, which is done through stomata in plants, and also water and other necessities of plants are absorbed through the stomata of leaves. As with the plant variation, stomata sizes do change and their working also changes, but the feeding characteristics not change. Another place where the stomata of the plant come into contact with the outside surrounding of the environment is when sugar is combined with the stem of the root in the plant for making the glucose out of it. There also, all the leaves share their sugar through the small openings at the tip of the stomata. Hence, stomata help in two main ways for the plant. How is tumor formed? Tumor is nothing but a body portion swelling extraordinary in the place like neck, brain and other parts of the body. They are of two types, internal and external. External tumor is formed due to the cell reproduction again and again without any much notable time and quick enough to be noticed after becoming big. Internal tumor, on the other hand, forms inside due to excessive stress and tension building on the brain. This is formed due to the clot of the blood flowing in the brain or in some other portion of the body parts. This may lead to a paralytic part of some body parts. They both can be cured from operation, and external cases involve the removal of the excessive mass of the body, which is not that easy because blood loses too much. In case of internal operation, it is not that easy to do because there are some problems that can occur during an operation. How do dogs learn to swim? Dogs are born with strong natural instincts, including barking, digging, and being totally lovable to humans. Some people also think that swimming is a skill that all dogs naturally have. Why would they call it the doggy paddle unless it was something all canines could do? but swimming isn't necessarily an innate ability for dogs. Believe it or not, some dogs are uncomfortable in the water. Just because they paddle doesn't mean they can stay afloat. It's true that some pooches, such as water spaniels and retrievers, are natural swimmers. In fact, many are born knowing how to swim. It's their instinct. But others have to be taught, and still others simply can't swim well. For example, dogs with heavy chests, such as bulldogs, sink in the water. Some dogs learn to swim by being rewarded with praise as they become more comfortable in the water, or by playing games such as fetch, which helps introduce them to deep water little by little. What is a mummy? A mummy is a preserved body that has been prepared for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians believed that their bodies had to be preserved as they were in life and that the dead lived on in the next world. They also thought that the person would use the body in the next world, so they spent much effort into developing methods of embalming. The process was simple when mummifying started and gradually became more elaborate. Ancient texts say that the whole and complete treatment took 70 days. Embalmers removed the person's brain through their nostrils using a hook. The way a surgeon does, they removed the internal organs except for the heart and the kidney, and they filled the empty abdomen with linen pads or sawdust. The coffins which the mummies were laid in were made of either stone or wood. They were shaped like the body or rectangular. With the mummy inside of it, the coffin would be placed in the tomb with many objects they used in life. The Egyptians believed that the person would need objects they used in everyday life with them to go to the next world. What's the buzz about bees and honey? Bees feed on the nectar of flowers and pollen in summers. Winters have less flowers, therefore bees fed on nectar and go back to their beehives to store the nectar in the wax cells as honey. This is their food for extreme winters and therefore is stored in the beehive safely. Every bee has a job, which it does to collect the honey. The nectar of flower is usually not so thick as honey, and the concentration of honey happens itself during the months it is stored. The warm weather evaporates the water content, leaving the thick honey. The air movement on the stored honey is done as bees fan their wings, and therefore there is a buzz over the beehive. The bees wrap the honey with their wax once they know it is ready to preserve for the colder months. What is human digestive system? For every system to run, one needs fuel and energy. Humans get their energy from food, and that is supplied by digestion system. The human digestive system is very complex and interesting too when you come to know its functioning. The digestive system starts from the mouth. Food is broken down partly by chewing it and mixed with saliva, which also helps in the chewing process. This semi-solid food is then swallowed to the organs in the stomach through food pipe. There is an organ that chunks the food and mixes with the strong acid called gastric acid. This mixed food material is then passed to the small intestine, where it is still broken down to further smaller molecules. This fine food is passed to the large intestine to take out the required chemicals for the body. This is waste material now and excreted from the human body. How do dolphins communicate? Dolphins are some of the smartest creatures that live in the water. They are usually very friendly to people and they are very social with each other. Dolphins communicate with one another in a number of different ways by creating sounds, making physical contact with one another, and through the use of body language. Vocally, dolphins communicate using high-pitched clicking sounds and whistles. Each dolphin communicates at a slightly different vocal pitch, which allows them to understand which dolphin is speaking. This is especially important when traveling in pods that contain multiple dolphins, where a mother may lose sight of her child, and when two friends cannot find one another. As stated earlier, body language is also important for dolphins and their survival. Body language can be used to indicate a number of things, such as a nearby predator, to indicate to other dolphins that they may have found food, to demonstrate their level of fitness and prospect for a mating partner, among other things. What are the three states of matter? Solid, liquid, and gases are the three states of matter. All the three are of different properties and can be easily distinguished on the basis of the motion of their molecules, forces, and the arrangement of the molecules. The molecules in the solid are closely packed and therefore have a strong intermolecular force which gives the solid a definite shape. Liquids, on the other hand, have molecules which are closely packed but do not follow a pattern like solids. The forces between these are less than those in the solid as the molecules are far off and therefore take shape of anything that we add them into. Gases have the weakest intermolecular forces and their molecules have kinetic energy which makes them move far off, thus spreading everywhere. Solid has the toughest structure, followed by liquids. Gas molecules are in constant random motion and therefore do not have a fixed position. What causes high blood pressure? High blood pressure is the result of pumping heat at a high rate, and this also makes the blood to push the walls of arteries hardly. Since the arteries are throughout the body, this causes hypertension in the human body. A very high blood pressure can even result in heart failure. Blood pressure is categorized into two types: primary hypertension and secondary hypertension. Till date, the estimation is 95% people suffer from primary hypertension and 5% suffer from secondary hypertension. There are a few causes of high blood pressure and are listed as older age, genetics, stress, smoking, being overweight, lack of physical activity, much alcohol consumption, chronic kidney disease, thyroid disorder. The essential hypertension is more likely found in men than in women and run in families. The primary hypertension also relates to the salt content in the body. The highest ranked point for secondary hypertension is kidney diseases. What causes itching when a mosquito bites? The first and foremost amazing fact is that we said usually mosquito bites, but in reality it is only the female mosquito which bites. She actually has a pointed straw-like proboscis, with the help of which she pierces our skin's upper layer, and in course of such piercing she breaks through epidermis layer and traces blood vessels there. After wounding vessel by her needle-like nose, she releases her saliva in the wound, so that because of its anticoagulant nature, blood may keep flowing till she feeds her blood to herself up to satisfaction. Because of such saliva, immune system produces histamine and counters such foreign material, saliva, and as reaction to this, allergy causes. So it starts itching. It is also the result of histamine as defender to bite area, which causes red bumps because of the swelling of blood vessels. In short, all is because of such released saliva. What does assimilation mean? Assimilation is a process of the adaptation which was firstly presented by Jean Piaget. With the help of assimilation, we can easily take a piece of new information or technique into our ideas that are there in our soul. This is of subjective manner because it has to be modifying the techniques and the information in such a manner that it can take the complete process in pre-existing thinking. According to Jean Piaget, there are many easy ways to take information and technique, and after getting the suitable information, we can run the information in our technique. Assimilation is the easiest and shortcut way for getting success as it does not require an amount for the deal of adjustment. After the use of this process, we can broadly exist our knowledge power. Sometimes new theory or discovery of theory can be easily fitted with the previous fact of that theory. How do mirrors work? Mirrors are usually made of clear glass that has been coated on one side with a thin film of metal such as silver or aluminium. They are flat and reflect the objects in front of them accurately, maintaining the same relative size and position of the objects reflected. Light is a form of energy, and when it hits a surface such as mirror, it is reflected or bounced from the surface. This is similar to a ball bouncing off a wall. The reflected image is comprised of photons, which are particles of light. When these photons initially hit the mirror, they cause electrons to vibrate within atoms, which in turn produces an identical light photon. When light strikes a plane mirror, the light is reflected back at an equal angle, yet reversed from right to left. One example of this would be to hold up a piece of paper in front of the mirror and write a word on the paper by looking not at the paper but at the reflection of the paper in the mirror. You will discover that when you look at the paper, the word will be written backward. What is an allergy? An allergy is the reaction of our body towards a substance which may or may not be harmful to the body. It can be a germ or a harmless thing like a pollen grain, a foreign particle, or an edible substance that may be recorded as danger to the body by the immune system. Allergic responses are not common in everyone, but only a few whose body are sensitive to certain chemicals or substances. The reactions of the body include watery eyes, sneezing, rashes, itchy eyes, and other bodily symptoms like breathing problem, etc. Once found allergic, doctors prescribe the avoidance of encounter with that substance and medicines. The reaction of our body must not be ignored, as the immune system protects you from the allergen and shows signs to keep the body away from the allergen. Some people are also allergic to certain chemicals or medication. Therefore, they need to be cautious before taking any dose of medicine. What is Android? Nowadays, there is a craze among people to buy and carry Android phones, and not just because it is in trend, but because it is much useful. Android is actually an operating system and key applications for mobile phones like smartphones, tablet computers, etc. based on Linux. It was invented by Palo Alto from California, Andy Rubin, Rich Miner, Nick Sears, and Chris White from US in 2003, and this invention is later acquired by Google in 2005. Now, Android is used by a major population of the world, especially liked by youth and technology-loving people because with the help of Android, various appliances can be developed. It is also much user-friendly due to its easy adaptability to the user's UI on different device types. How do plants make food? Plants are very important to us. All food people eat comes directly or indirectly from plants. Just like there are certain essentials to humans and animals' survival, plants have certain things they need too. The things that plants cannot live without are water, carbon dioxide from the air, sunlight, and nutrients in the ground. Plants use these things in a special process called photosynthesis, which allows them to make their own food, which is why they don't need to eat. Plants contain a special helper called chlorophyll, which is what makes them green, which makes photosynthesis possible. Another really special thing about the way plants make food has to do with how they use the air they breathe. While humans breathe in the part of air known as oxygen and breathe out the part known as carbon dioxide, plants do the opposite. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that we don't cut down too many trees. They help us to always have enough oxygen to breathe. What is the internet? Today's world is also known by the name of internet world, so it is really a need to know what the internet actually is. It is a network of computers linked worldwide via telephone wires, satellite links, etc. Internet addresses are in form of aa.aaa where AAA are numbered from 0 to 255. This is called IP address. All computers on the internet can be divided into two categories. Servers contain information and browsers are the source option from where such information can be taken online. Generally, people think that World Wide Web and the internet are the same, but in reality, it is not so. The internet is a network of several computers which are linked via some wire or some setting so that link may sustain without wire too. Whereas World Wide Web contains interlinked vast collection of information so that public may use this resource. The internet is the main network and www is one of its useful services. What is color blindness? In color blindness disease, no any color blindness actually exists, but it is a color vision deficiency disease. In this disease, the person's color spectrum gets narrowed, so he becomes disabled to perceive all colors rightly. In human eyes, there are three types of cones for three main color perceptions, and each cone is sensitive to a certain wavelength of colors like red, green, and blue. If the sensitivity of such cone gets shifted even slightly towards another one, color blindness is caused. This disease is of certain types like green, blue, and red disorders. If a person has red, green color blindness, he can be confused on separating blue and purple colors as he cannot recognize red color present in purple. Such diseases are usually transferred genetically from the mother's side. However, diseases like glaucoma, aging, alcoholism, injury on head, diabetes, and multiple sclerosis can also give birth to color blindness. What is fission? The term fission is a very common term used in both biology and physics. In both the subjects, fission has the same meaning. It means the division of one into two or multiple. In physics, fission is the process in which the radioactive particle is divided into two parts with almost the same molecular masses. Along with these two subparticles, some neutrons or electrons are also produced, which continues the fission process in a chain fashion. The fission is used in nuclear reactors, which in turn provide us with electricity. In biology, fission means the division of one cell into two cells, and each cell regenerates on its own to create a complete cell. In biology, fission is of two types: binary fission, that is, the offspring produced is two, and multiple, in which the offspring produced are more than two. Fission is the process due to which an organism gains growth and the cells are built to form a complete new creature. What is genetic engineering? Genetic engineering is also named as the genetic modification. It's a directly manipulation of the being's genome applying modern deoxyribonucleic acid technology. It calls for the origination of the foreign deoxyribonucleic acid or the synthetic genes in the organism of concern. The origination of the new deoxyribonucleic acid does not demand the utilization of the classic genetic methods. Still, the traditionalistic breeding methods are also generally utilized for the multiplication of the recombinant beings. A being which is yielded by the introduction of the recombinant deoxyribonucleic acid is conceived to be the genetically changed organism. The first organisms that were genetically organized were the bacteria and the mice. The insulin-making bacteria were marketed in the year 1982. Genetically changed food had been traded since the year 1994. One of the nearly usual forms of the genetic engineering calls for the insertion of the newly genetical corporeal in an unspecified localization within the host order. What is heredity? Heredity is the passing on of characteristics from one generation to the next. It is the reason why offspring look like their parents. The process of heredity occurs among all living things, including animals, plants, bacteria, protists, and fungi. The study of heredity is called genetics, and scientists that study heredity are called geneticists. Through heredity, living things inherit traits from their parents. Traits are physical characteristics. We resemble our parents because we inherited our hair and skin color, shape of nose, height, and other traits from them. Heredity is the passing down of genes through generations. If something is hereditary, it can be received from one's parents from birth. For example, if two parents have brown hair, it is likely the offspring will have brown hair. What is laughing gas? Laughing gas is nitrous oxide, N2O, dinitrogen oxide. It is a colorless gas with a sweet smell. It acts as an anesthetic type agent, and mainly it is used by dentists on patients so that they may not feel pain. Also, it is used as a propellant in cream cans, in racing cars as an oxidizing agent, etc. On inhaling it, actually the brain of the person gets relaxed enough and he feels woozy as he feels in alcohol, and in such a situation behaves like he is a drunkard. A few people also feel sleepy later, but if it is inhaled in enough proportion, it can also lead to the loss of consciousness or even death sometimes, because in pure nitrous oxide, oxygen lacks. Bone marrow can also be affected. It was discovered in 1772, and for medical purpose it is used widely. What is oxygen debt? Oxygen is the most essential factor for keeping us alive, and this fact is known to all. But there can also be a situation when oxygen debt can cause, and further, on paying such debt back, no loss can be occurred to the person. When your body demands more oxygen but supplies not so, it is situation of oxygen debt. Mainly, such condition occurs when you exercise or play. Actually, at that time, your many muscles work together and so require more oxygen to continue. But if at that time the supply of oxygen is not in such required amount, oxygen debt situation takes place, which can lead the person to fatigue or can even stop breathing. By anaerobic respiration, the person starts to produce lactic acid, and this can cause cramps. But if oxygen is supplied in time as required, the person can be normal as he was before. What is the relation between tides and the moon? Changing levels of water in the ocean is called tide. In creating tides, the moon plays a very specific role. Not only the moon but also the sun is responsible for fluctuation caused in water level to some extent. The moon is closer to earth, so it is mainly responsible for causing tides. Gravitational force of the moon causes oceans to bulge out in the direction of the moon, and other bulge occurs in opposite side as earth is also being pulled by the moon. Each day, 2 times tide causes with having difference of 12 hours and 25 minutes from low tides to high tides and vice versa. Tides are very high and very low if the sun and the moon are aligned because of strong gravitational force, and if not so, gravitational force of both are cancelled and neap tides cause, that is least height of tides. The height of tides varies because of the varying distance of the moon with earth. What is the function of blood? Blood is comprised of white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Their main functions are differentiated as transport, maintenance, and immunity provider. Each component has its own function. Primarily, blood serves as a carrier of useful components to the desired part and waste component back to the respective place. Several functions of blood are: blood transfers the oxygen from the lungs to the body and carbon dioxide from the body to the lungs. It contains white blood cells which are being transferred to fight against the disease, regulates the pH value of the body. Inside body temperature is also maintained by blood, which heals cuts and injuries. It also acts as an antibiotic against several infections. Blood takes the important nutrients from food and supplies them to all the parts of the body. Hormones are responsible for the changes in the human body, and these hormones are transported by blood. What is the function of epiglottis? Epiglottis has a flap structure which is made up of an elastic cartilage that is covered with hard roof or hard skin known as mucous membrane, which is closely attached at the start of the larynx. There is a risk of epiglottis in the young children or growing children because these glands at some times start swell up and can cause difficulty in breathing. Vaccination and other treatment have been developed against this disease to prevent the disease altogether or all at the same time. Epiglottis secures the start of the glottis, the center part of the vocal folds. It is strategically shifted upward so that one part of epiglottis may be breathed with the underside of the functioning area or part of the pharynx, but the another one inside the region that is known as swallowing. Epiglottis is made up of 9 cartilaginous, which is made up of larynx. How does the pencil sharpener work? Pencils can only write for so long before their graphite tips are worn down to nubs, and then we can't write anymore. This is when we go to the very helpful machines called pencil sharpeners. Early pencil sharpeners consisted only of 2 blades situated in a metal housing that was manually turned around the pencil. More modern pencil sharpeners include a housing usually composed of plastic to catch the softwood shavings as they are cut away. In these sharpeners, the blades are turned by hand crank protruding outside the housing, or the pencil is manually turned against the blades. Electric pencil sharpeners rotate the blades through use of an electric motor affixed inside the sharpener housing. A sensor or small switch detects the insertion of a pencil and activates the motor. How does a zipper work? There are lots of ways to keep your coats and pants and sweatshirts warmly wrapped around you, like buttons, snaps, hooks, and bow ties. Then there are zippers, which are just as helpful as the other ways, but slightly more mysterious. How do they work? A zipper track is made up of dozens of teeth, each of which combines a hook and a hollow. The idea is to latch every hook on each of the 2 tracks into a hollow on the opposite track. The latching mechanism, called the slide, is just a collection of wedges. As the slide moves up the zipper, the 2 teeth strips must enter at a specific angle. As the strips move through the slide's inclined edges push the teeth toward each other. The strips are offset from each other, so each hollow settles onto a hook in sequence. For this to work properly, each tooth must be exactly the same size and shape, and they all must be perfectly positioned on the track. What is the process of food absorption? Food absorption is also known as digestion in the language of science. The full system of digestion or food absorption is 12 meters long in the body of the human. In the body of the healthy human, this process takes place in normally between 24 to 72 hours. The digestion is also depending on the food that we eat and the size of the meal. Digestion is a chemical or scientific breakdown of food from bigger parts to smaller parts that can be easily absorbed by the bloodstream or blood cells. In an easy language, it is also known as the breakdown of large food particles into the small ones, so they can be absorbed easily or can take food energy by the bloodstream. When the food particle enters the mouth of the human being, then it is the start of the food absorption. It is a form of mechanical digestion. What is the reason behind popping sounds of the body joints? Most of the times we do a deep knee bend and then we hear a popping sound that comes from your knee joints. This is a very common thing that is faced by the people of different age groups. The reason for these sounds in the knees and other joints is because of the tendons, which are basically fiber responsible for connecting the muscles and bones, snap into a different position. When we move the tendons back and forth, getting into a new position instantaneously, there is no resting time, and thus the sound is produced. The popping of gas bubbles that escape from these tendons and joints cause the sound. This phenomenon can be explained in simple words as the bones passing gas. What is the role of blood platelets? The human body is of such type that it cannot hold excessive loss of blood. So there should be some hormone which helps humans to keep stick their wounds and cuts so that they may be intact with their proper working of the body. Blood platelets are the required hormone that helps them for blood clot during any severe accidents and wounds. There are very tiny cells that stick together like a gum and make a layer which does not allow any more blood to flow out of the skin. Although this process of making tiny cells of layers for blood clot varies according to the persons, yet these cells start their working when it comes in contact with the air, and it varies from person to person because of vitamin K and calcium along with proteins variation in the human body. Blood platelets are in millions in the human body. What makes us sneeze? We sneeze when our nasal mucosal membrane is swollen or the nerve ending is irritated. The irritation can be caused by anything, which may be a foreign substance or allergen. However, sometimes sneezing occurs when our optic nerve is exposed to bright light. Multiple sneezes or one single sneeze is a reflex of the human body to throw out any unwanted body out of the respiratory tract. In ancient times, people used to take a sneeze as a mark of danger that is to happen or a sudden death. Shouting or remarking, "God help you," has been a tradition since then. The Romans and the Greeks believed it as a sign of forthcoming miseries and thought that the lucky ones sneeze on the right while the unlucky sneeze on the left. According to the Bible, a sneeze signifies death. The Pope of the Church, Gregory, insisted on saying "God bless you" when you or someone sneezes. What makes the cracking of knuckles? In general, we hear a popping sound when we crack our knuckles, and there is a scientific reason behind this. The sound in the knuckles is caused when we deliberately or undeliberately extend the finger joint to its maximum range. The joints are enclosed by a lubricating fluid, and when we extend the knuckles, the gas that is dissolved in the fluid separates instantaneously and forms a little bubble, which as a result causes a cracking sound. But until and unless the fluid again absorbs the gas, you can't make another crackling sound from pressing your knuckles. Most of the people think that when we crack our knuckles, we actually enlarge them, but this is still debatable. How many eyes does a spider have? Spiders have two fangs, one cephalothorax, joined head and middle, one abdomen and 8 legs. But how many eyes do these arachnids have? Most spiders, but definitely not all spiders, have 8 eyes. And the way those eyes are arranged can often help scientists work out what kind of spider it is. Of course, that's assuming they are prepared to get close enough. Spiders usually have some eyes on top of their heads and some more in front. With so many eyes, it's a bit surprising that they usually don't have good eyesight. Instead, they probably just see light and dark shapes moving around. When they are hunting, they make up for that bad eyesight with an excellent ability to sense vibration and taste. Where do crocodiles live? Crocodiles, the largest of living reptiles, are found throughout the tropical and subtropical regions of the world. Crocodiles are found on all the continents of the world except for Europe and Antarctica. The geographical range of this reptile species spans across North America, South America, Asia, Africa, and Australia. Their natural habitat includes freshwater sources such as rivers, lakes, etc., as well as brackish water sources. Even the crocodiles can stay on land. They always prefer staying around some source of water. In fact, their diet predominantly consists of the large animal species which come to drink water. They lie in the water body with only their eyes and nose above the surface and wait for the prey to come closer. As the prey closes in, they swoop out of water, catch it with their strong teeth, drag it into the water and feed on it. These crocodiles can grow up to immense size, which makes relatively easy for them to grab their prey. with the biggest crocodile in the world growing up to almost 20 feet. Even larger prey find it difficult to escape from this wild beast. Why do turtles have shells? A turtle has a shell because it provides it with protection. Almost certainly the original and most widespread role of the turtle shell is protection from predators, something that's especially useful given the slow, careful foraging styles of most turtles. Different types of turtles have different types of shells, which all provide benefits in their own ways. All turtles have some types of shells, but there are big differences in the protection those shells provide. Some turtles, such as the American and Asian box turtles, have hinges on the lower shells, which allow them to go inside their shells and then close up the doors, front and rear. Some turtles have special shells that allow them to bring their head, arms and legs into their shells for complete protection from predators, while others, such as the leatherback sea turtle, have softer, more leather-like shells that allow them to swim deeper down into the sea. In 230 million years, they have evolved to utilize very different habitats. They live everywhere on Earth except the Arctic and Antarctic. What are earthworms? One of the Earth's original recyclers, earthworms are our planet's greatest composters. They help keep the soil fertile so plants can grow. When they burrow into the ground and turn up soil, they expose it to oxygen. As they dig deep, they eat decomposing organic matter like leaves and roots and extract the nutrients from them. When the worms come up to the surface and excrete their waste, they release those nutrients which plants need to live and grow. And finally, earthworms themselves also are a food source for birds and other animals. An earthworm manages to get by just fine without a lot of the organs and physical features that humans depend upon. The earthworm doesn't have feet or hands, so it moves around by expanding and contracting the little segments of its body. The earthworm doesn't have ears, so it can't hear, but it can sense vibrations that indicate a predator is nearby. Why does an object fall on the earth? Whenever we push anything upward, it again falls back to earth. All is due to the gravitational force of the earth. Gravitational attraction is actually the attraction between two objects. This force is directly proportional to the product of their masses and is inversely proportional to distance between their distances. Gravitational force of the earth is 9.8 meter per second. When we throw anything in the upward direction, it falls down because the earth's gravitational force pulls it back. We are also constantly being pulled by the earth, but we don't fall because we are already on the surface of the earth. If anything is thrown up high and it reaches its escape velocity 7 miles per second or 25,000 miles per hour, the object will not fall back on the earth because the earth's gravitational force then becomes weak as per the comparison of the distance of the object. So it will get failed in pulling such object back to earth. What is a bubble? A bubble is a thin film of soapy water. Most of the bubbles that you see are filled with air, but you can make a bubble using other gases such as carbon dioxide. The film that makes the bubble has 3 layers. A thin layer of water is sandwiched between 2 layers of soap molecules. Each soap molecule is oriented so that its polar hydrophilic head may face the water, while its hydrophobic hydrocarbon tail extends away from the water layer. No matter what shape a bubble has initially, it will try to become a sphere. The sphere is the shape that minimizes the surface area of the structure, which makes it the shape that requires the least energy to achieve. Why are wind-pollinated flowers very light? The type of reproduction in plants is usually occurred with the help of the pollination process, which mainly occurs in flowers. Pollination is a technique in which the pollen is transferred from the male to the female part of flowers. One flower can only have a male part or a female part, and thus the pollen needs some carriers to transfer pollen grains from one flower to another. Nature is the provider of all. It provides two basic methods of pollination. One is by the help of animals and insects. The other is by the wind. The flowers which are wind pollinated are so light in weight that they get carried away by even the light currents of the air. They are usually unscented, small in size and light in weight. The main reason for them to be light-weighted is simply to get carried away by the wind to pollinate some other flowers. Why is cancer a dangerous disease? There are many studies done on cancer, and now curable steps are invented for cancer. But still cancer is found out to be dangerous because it is not that easy to find out the symptoms of cancer at an early stage. In early stages, only if cancer is detected, then doctors can be able to cure it. In last stages, after 3, there will not be any possible solution to cancer to be cured. Hence, it is declared to be still a dangerous disease. It is a wild disease that elaborates in body cells and tissues, and this process is fast enough to form health hazards. The major point is that cancer has so many types and so many categories that it becomes really difficult to fight against it. Keeping all these points and evidences, cancer is declared to be a dangerous disease. Still, some people are trying to see cancer as 100% curable disease. Why do birds have beaks? A bird's beak, which is also at times called as the bill, is more like a jaw of the bird. It helps the bird to chew food. While animals have heavy jaw bones and teeth, birds have light beaks so that they may fly easily. The beak of the bird also helps it to tear things into pieces. Each bird has a different shape of beak so that it may suit the specific bird's eating habits. Thus, a bird that has a long, pointy beak enables it to get nectar from flowers. The bird that has a short beak feeds on insects. Seeds require strong beaks as they can crack nuts and other foods with them. The beaks of birds keep growing all their life. Why do children lose their milk teeth? Children lose their milk teeth as they grow up because their gums and jaw size increase with age. The loosening of primary teeth occurs at the age of 6 to 7 years, and because the jaw or jaw muscles cannot take in permanent teeth, the root of the milk teeth is reabsorbed. The first teeth to fall are central incisors on the lower jaw and first molars. As soon as the primary tooth falls, the root of the permanent teeth takes its place and starts developing till the early teenage. The adult teeth need guidance as they start growing after the fall of the milk teeth and take their position in the jaw. The permanent tooth comes out of the gum and therefore the process of new teeth eruption starts as soon as the old teeth fall. As the child grows, the jaw and its musculatures mature and gain the strength required to hold the new set of permanent teeth. Why do flowers have colors? Flowers are liked by all because of their beautiful eye-catching colors. Such colors in flowers are the result of reflected light from the pigments called anthocyanins in the plant, which are based upon in the hereditary genome of the plant. Apart from such pigments, there are also other reasons which give flowers different colors. Such factors are ultraviolet light, pollination, environment, weather, etc. It is generally thought that flowers are only for catching attraction of us, but in reality, they serve as attention getters for pollinators too. They offer them nectar, protein, etc. The brighter the color of a flower is, the more it will attract pollinators. After the passing of a certain age of pollination, the color of a flower sometimes sends signals to pollinators that it is now not capable of offering them favorable situations to pollinate. In warmer regions, flowers are faded colors because of water deprivation, so geographical condition also affects them. Why do helium balloons float? Helium balloons float in water because of the force called buoyancy, which is the upward force exerted by water that resists the weight immersed in the liquid. A balloon with helium gas is lighter than a balloon filled with air because a liter of air weighs 1.25 grams. but a liter of helium gas weighs only 0.18 gram. To understand the physics of the helium balloon and the water, let's take a balloon which is 1 foot in diameter. This balloon will hold approximately half a cubic foot of helium and therefore will weigh about 14 grams. That is less than a balloon of 30 centimeter having air. Balloons usually float because air is lighter than water. But because helium gas is lighter than air, the balloon with helium gas floats on the water upwards and pops up even though you add weight with the balloon. Why do leaves change colors? Leaves change colors when the season changes. In the fall or winter, the leaf pigment responsible for the green color, chlorophyll, is not produced in leaves. Here, the secondary pigments act and give their colors to leaves. These include carotene, which gives bright orange color to carrots. Anthocyanin in red and wine-colored leaves gives color to cabbage, roses and geraniums. The color of a leaf depends upon the type of tree and also the weather condition. The sunny season after extreme cold evidences green sparkling leaves. Leaves fall in winter as the stems that bind leaves to the tree start weakening as the cell starts disintegrating. Any external force higher than the bond will make the leaf fall. After leaves have fallen on the ground, the pigments start disintegrating and soon become tannins. These pigments also give brown color to tea. Why do the parts of our body fall asleep? Human body parts do not fall asleep as the prescribed notion, but they tend to lose the sensation of touch or pressure due to the compression of the nerves, which takes the stimulus from the body to the brain. Mostly, it is because of the position of our limb that defines the sleepiness of our body part. It is the nerve which is compressed, and therefore the distal part of the compression gives us no sensation, also referred to as sleepiness here. Nerve fibers take the message to the brain and bring it back. When we move ourselves or change the position, the nerve releases, and then we feel tingling, burning before we feel our sensations coming back to normal and numbness disappearing. The ability to move and touch comes immediately after we have gained control of the limb minus the numbness of the nerves, which bring the sensation to touch and position. This sensation is connected to the brain via the spinal cord. When we move our body, it is back to normal. Why do people burp? Burping or belching is a way out for gases that have caused indigestion in the stomach. The release of gas is via the esophagus from the stomach, which comes out of the mouth. This regurgitation is because the air we take in while we eat and drink that causes tension in the stomach, and that pressure creates a need for the person to belch. Belching often happens out of nervousness or if one has a habit to burp after eating. Mostly carbonated water, soda, smoking, chewing gum, tobacco, sucking through a straw aggravate belching. Socially, a burp is considered informal and impolite by other diners or people sitting on the table. But in Eastern countries, a burp after a meal adds to the compliment to the meal. A burp is natural and is an elimination process of the digestive system to remove the gas that may hinder digestion. Therefore, the individual feels easy after a slight burp. Why do people have curly hair? Hair is primarily made up of protein called keratin and grows from a follicle, which is a sac. Proteins have sulfur atoms, and when two sulfur atoms combine, they form a disulfide bond. The texture of our hair mainly depends on the disulfide bond. The greater the number of these bonds, the curlier our hair would be, and vice versa. The percentage of humidity in the air not only determines how our hair looks, but also its straightness or curliness. When there is more humidity, its effect forces the water to return to hair fiber. This affects the protein structure of the hair, forcing it to become original. No matter how many times a person gets his or her hair straightened, the new hair that grows will always be in its original form. Why do salty soils kill plants? Sometimes you may have noticed irregular bare spots in your gardens and odd crop growth. At that time, you might have thought that you have taken care of everything. Even then, why it is so? Actually, it is because of salty soils, which are caused by poor drainage, leaching salts, excessive use of fertilizers, or dry conditions. Such presence of salt in soil can limit, firstly, the ability of plant to absorb water, poor seed germination, reduce fruit and vegetable yields, plant burn, inhibit flowering, restrict root growth, etc. Salty soils can cause ionic stresses when sodium and chloride inhibit the metabolic processes of the plant and also inhibit the protein synthesis. Sodium raises toxic levels in older leaves and lead them to die. In this way, leaf area gets reduced and finally plants fail to sustain. Salty water effects in dry weather when water is really much required by plants. Why do stars twinkle? In reality, only we on the earth observe stars twinkling and shining. The perception of stars twinkling is mainly because the earth has a lot of layers in the surrounding atmosphere with distinct air density and temperature. Due to this, the light that is reflected on the surface of the earth from where we observe from the star persistently bends as it passes over different mediums or density of air that surrounds the earth. The air around the earth that makes the layer is usually in a whirling mode, which disturbs the light coming from a direction and therefore makes the star appear shining brightly and twinkling with a different frequency every time we observe it. As we move away from the earth or out of its atmosphere, stars do not twinkle as there is no atmosphere or layer of air in space. The continuous bending of light makes us feel that stars twinkle. Why do we blink our eyes? Eyelid, which blinks, is one of the involuntary movements in the human body. The action of blinking essentially keeps the eye moist and protects it from any foreign matter. The fold of skin which forms the eyelid also has sebaceous glands underneath it, which secrete oils to keep our eyes away from drying. The rapid action of these muscles does not interfere with our vision or sight. The eyelid also sucks the tear from the gland in the eye so that it may keep the eye moisturized all through the day. The eyelashes, on the other hand, act as a dust catcher and stop any particle to enter the eye and irritate. The camel also has long eyelashes, which shield it from the dust or sandstorm in the desert. A perfect example of how the animal and human body have evolved. Blinking is a mechanism to shield, moisturize, and keep the eye out of drying, and therefore is vital for the health of the human eye. Why do we dream? Dream is what we experience, see, and feel during sleep. But why is it caused? Whether it has some purpose or not is not fully answered by anyone yet. At present, there are two groups who explain the answer to such questions as per their own perspective. But in some points, both are the same, as dreaming takes place during REM or rapid eye movement, sleeping phase, etc. In 1977, J. Allen Hobson and Robert McCarley gave the activation synthesis model of dreaming. Accordingly, during REM sleep, our brain gets activated and causes the areas of limbic system, amygdala and hippocampus involved in emotions, memories, sensations, etc., which result in dreaming. Finally, our brain synthesizes and interprets this internal activity in signals. As per Hobson, dreams are never meaningless, but whether it is truth or not, no one knows till now. Why do we get a shock from electricity? Electricity is a force which is generated outside our body. If it comes in contact with the human body, it may disturb the internal current or electricity in our body that the nervous system generates. The human body has a high volume of water content and therefore is a good transmitter of electricity. If the wire or any good source of electricity comes in contact with the human body, it results in electricity transferring from our body. The high voltage hinders the electrical energy that is produced in the body. An electric shock may result in the twitching of the muscle or harming of the nervous system. It may even bring problems in our cardiac rhythm. The deadliest effect of an electric shock is death. Why do we perspire? We perspire mainly to keep the body temperature at the level of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of the human body is controlled by brain, which is the temperature control center of the body. Since our body needs to burn around 2500 calories to run its basic internal mechanism each day, the releasing of energy produces a lot of internal heat. This heat can harm the blood and other cellular components. Therefore, our body dilates the blood vessels that help the systems to relax. To release the heat, the body cools down by releasing tiny droplets from the skin pores, which also contain waste products, acids, and various types of salts. In summers or high temperature minus the humidity, the perspiration evaporates quickly, which is not likely seen in high humid conditions. Human beings have to wipe it off or use air conditioner or fans to remove all the perspiration. Why do we see different kinds of clouds? Different types of clouds can be largely seen in the sky due to the air pressure and the temperature of the sky. When the air is cold way up in the sky, the water droplets from which the clouds are formed condense and freeze. On the other hand, warm air makes these clouds to come down from the sky and land in as fog. The clouds that take up the form of fog cover the sky and are stretched out and are observed in stormy weather. Since you see clouds floating over the sky, the air changes and temperature squeezes, which stretches them and gives them different shapes which are not definite, making the clouds different from one another. No wonder, when you check the sky every day, you have new clouds and absolutely new sky in visibility, all thanks to the floating air. Why does caffeine keep you awake? Coffee contains caffeine, which helps us reduce drowsiness. Sleepiness or drowsiness is often chemically induced by adenosine that binds to its receptors in the brain and creates drowsiness. Caffeine is a chemical and it alters the chemical level of our brain, making us feel aroused. Firstly, it stimulates up by rushing adrenaline in our bloodstream. The next way of arousing our body is by increasing the dopamine level in our brain, which is a neurotransmitter, and makes us feel better and roused. The content of caffeine in coffee also stops the adenosine to bind to its receptors, thus not making the person feel drowsy. Soft drinks also have caffeine, and that is why it gives the right taste and upswing when taken. Those who love soft drinks are often seen addicted to the freshness they feel after having them and not their flavor. Coffee wakes you up essentially by reducing the brain activity associated with sleeping. Why does the cutting of onions make you shed tears? Against the popular notion that the strong odor of the onion makes us shed tears, but in reality it is the gas released by an onion. An onion contains oils that have sulfur, which irritates not only our eyes but also our nose. When we cut an onion, the gas from it, known as propanethiol S oxide, combines with enzymes in the onion to give out sulfur compound. This compound rapidly enters the air. It comes in contact with our eyes, they automatically blink. Due to the irritation of lacrimal glands, tears are produced. These tears produced are a way by which our body wants to get rid of this chemical before it harms our eyes. When we rub our eyes with our hands while cutting onions, it further exacerbates the irritation. This is because our hands are covered with sulfuric acid and the caustic producing oil in the onion. Why does the fruit change its color as it ripens? Fruits do change their colors as they ripe to attract eaters and animals. Unripe fruits such as a green banana are bitter, raw and hard to chew, whereas the yellow ripened banana is tasty and sweet. Fruits change colors when their seeds are ready to be transported. Bright colors attract animals to eat fruits and therefore help spread seeds to various places where plants grow to fruit again. Since plants cannot walk around on their own, they only can attract animals or humans to eat them. They eat the flesh and drop the seeds or take them in the excreta so that the seeds may find the favorable soil and conditions to grow again. Also, when you see a fruit has changed its color, it means that it is ready to be eaten. Why does it rain? Actually, raining is not a single activity, but it is actually a chain of activities. This process starts in warm days when sunshine heats up the ground and above it all. On being warm, the air absorbs water from seas, river, pond, etc. and goes up. On going higher and higher, warm air gets very low temperature of atmosphere and thus gets cold more and more. The temperature at which water vapor gets converted into water droplets is called condensation point. After being converted into water droplets, tiny water droplets generally combine with other big droplets. Such big water droplets then fall back on the Earth's surface because of their heavy weight and gravity. Such falling of water droplets is taken as raining by us. This process always starts in summer season. In very hot season or sometimes in spring season, we experience raining. Why do bats hang upside down? Bats are mammals that are born with wings. Because of their functions, they have been unable to take much weight on their limbs. They are not strong to help them walk. Therefore, they lie upside down or hang themselves like that in caves. As they take up weight on their wings, it also helps them to cling to their offspring. The gravity also exerts a downward force, so the offspring stays in touch with the midline clinging. Bats hang themselves and hunt their prey as the night sets in, not because of the myth that they have wonderful night eyesight. The high-frequency sound made by bats is just to know the prey or what is lying ahead of them. This is because the sound which they produce reflects back. Why does saliva come out when we sleep? Saliva is a liquid proteinaceous substance containing amylase enzyme and is produced by salivary glands under tongue. Because of amylase, starch gets broken down into sugars and gets digested easily. A normal person produces up to 1.9 liters of saliva in a day, but sometimes a person may face the situation where excessive saliva is coming out. Such excessive saliva may come out because of certain diseases like infection in mouth, teething, pregnancy, GERD, acute sinusitis, allergies, enlarged adenoids, tumor, Parkinson's disease, etc. There is also a probability that the person has less capacity to swallow or keep saliva in his mouth. Yawning can also activate the glands. Such swallowing can be caused by the enlargements of adenoids of glands, allergies, etc. If a person is facing such issue of excessive saliva, he must consult the doctor as this problem can be very small or may be very serious. Why does Saturn have rings? The solar system has now 8 planets and Saturn is one of them. Saturn is very special among them as it bears a ring-like structure on it. Such rings of Saturn were firstly observed by Galileo in 1610 and still it is mystery that how actually such rings have formed. However, there are several predictions about it. Firstly, it is believed that Saturn's rings have come from a celestial object and is still with Saturn because of its high gravity and vector force. It is composed of billions of individual particles like rocks, dust, ice, etc. It orbits Saturn above just its equator. Sizes of such vary from a few centimeters to several hundred meters in diameter. Saturn is not a unique planet as only it has rings, but in reality, Uranus, Jupiter and Neptune also have such rings. The only difference is Saturn's rings are bigger than the rings of other planets. Why does the moon follow us when we drive? While moving on the road, we leave things behind us at the speed we are moving. As we look up the sky, we see the moon following us even though we speed up and cross miles. This is mainly because the distance of the moon is approximately 240,000 miles and it being above us, we only see the moon following. The high distance of the moon and the earth and the relative low speed of the car in relation to the distance the car travels on earth, the angle of the moving car and the moon does not differ or change greatly, even though the car moves at its highest speed. The angle also remains the same and therefore we only see the things on our left and right moving behind us, but the moon looking at us from above and following. Astronomers define the moon following as the impact of the distance of the moon and the earth. Why does weather change? It will be really repetitive to say that weather changes because we all are known to it. Such change in weather takes place because of factors like heat, wind, moisture, etc. Process starts when the sun heats the earth's surface in uneven manner. This happens because sunlight does not fall in the same manner on every part of the earth. For example, the ocean takes longer to get heated in comparison to land. Such uneven heating causes wind, and wind then moves the clouds here and there. During heat process by the sun on the earth, clouds carry water in vapor forms which fall down as snow or water on being heavy. In change of weather, temperature plays an important role by causing density changes in air and water. Change of weather is a dynamic process which continues forever. The sun is the primary factor to cause such changes. Why are earthquakes caused? Earthquake comes under the category of natural disaster. Our earth has 4 layers: inner core, outer core, mantle and crust. Crust and mantle have covered the whole earth, but not by its one piece of layer, but having many of pieces called tectonic plates. These plates keep moving around, and the edges of them are called plate boundaries. Plate boundaries contain many faults, and major earthquakes occur on these faults only. When rock underground gets suddenly broken along a fault because of high pressure, earthquake is caused, because that time sudden release of energy in the earth's crust creates seismic waves which shake the earth's surface. Earthquake is measured by seismometers. Volcanic eruptions, landslides, explosions and rock falls, etc. can also cause earthquakes, but these are generally of only local extent. Even shocks from a powerful earthquake have capacity to cause small earthquakes in distant locations if geologic conditions favor. From where do butterflies get their striking colors? Butterflies possess some of the most striking color displays found in nature. A butterfly's rich color can act as camouflage, mate attraction, and warning signal. But what is it that makes the vivid colors of butterfly wings appear to dance? How can they possess such intense hues? Butterflies actually get their colors from 2 different sources: ordinary or pigmented color and structural color. The ordinary color comes from normal chemical pigments that absorb certain wavelengths of light and reflect others. For example, the pigment chlorophyll colors plants green. The chlorophyll soaks up the blue and red colors of the spectrum but not the green, which you see when it bounces back to your eye. Most butterflies get their different shades of brown and yellow from melanin, the same pigment that makes you tan in summer and gives some people freckles. Why do fish respire through gills? Unlike humans have noses and mouths co-jointly working for their respiration system, fish do not possess them for their respiration system. They have gills, which are like pores on their fins and body portion. They also need oxygen, which gills provide them with. They respire through gills because they inhale oxygenated water, and gills take out all the oxygen from them and allow the body tissues to flow oxygen to the different body parts. This process is although little complicated yet easily done through gills in fish. The efficiency of the flow of oxygen through gills depend on the blood and water flowing in opposite direction. This can be increased to 70%, as a fish can extract oxygen from the gills up to 70%. Another reason to have gills in the fish is that all the waste products are released through the pores of gills. Hence, fish need gills for respiration system. Why does hair turn grey in old age? In old age, hair turns grey. Even a few person's hair turns grey at a very young age. All such things happen because of the production of melanin. Actually, our hair is made of 2 parts. Firstly, the shaft, the hair which we see growing out of our head. Secondly, the root section of such hair under the scalp. The root of every strand of hair is surrounded by hair follicle, which contains several pigment cells to produce continuously the chemical melanin. It is the same chemical which is responsible for making the skin color fair or dark. As we grow old, our pigment cells in hair follicles start dying. When it dies totally, hair turns grey. For making hair color brown, red and grey too, only this melanin is responsible. The hair color will change as per the amount of melanin each hair contains. Why do human bodies have nails in their hands and feet? There are hundreds of theories why we have nails in our hands and feet. Some of them are based on the protection aspect from various other things. Others are more creative because they are based on the facts of the evolution of human bodies. Among the 20 nails, fingernails are more useful in the daily task and hence people prefer them to put in their hands. Women have long nails because they get one more portion to make art on them, now known as nail art. Basically, humans possess nails because it is a part of a body. As hair and other things grow with age, nails do. Hormones are the main reason, as like the case with hair and skin. Calcium is the main thing that is possessed by nails, which also makes them strong. Fingernails help scratch a lot of things and toenails are useful because they protect toes from any tap. Why does the human skin release oil? The human skin is highly varying in nature, which can be fairer in color. The human skin is highly affected by the climatic change or as the surrounding changes. The human skin releases oil through oil glands, also known as pores, that consist of skin cells and tissues. Usually, the oil produced by these glands are known as sebum. The human skin becomes fond of this sebum oil due to moisture in the skin. Usually, the skin of hands and feet occupied with oils get a sticky touch because of the moisture. Sebum oil is made from various nutrients that are produced in the human body because of the food a person eats. Hence, one can comment that oil in the human skin is obtained due to moisture and the main reason behind its creation is the eating habit or rather the food a person eats on daily basis. As a result, skin releases oil. Why is it necessary for an infant to have mother's milk? We have often heard many people and doctors say that breastfeeding is the best for an infant. We may wonder as to why only mother's milk is given to a newborn. Well, here is a clear explanation. The chemicals in mother's milk are the best food for the baby who is a newborn. Although there are a number of formula that are supposed to replace the breast milk, yet there are no replacements which are the best. It gives immunity to the child against diseases and infections. Diarrhea and other such diseases can be avoided in infants by feeding them mother's milk. Ear infections are also avoided by breastfeeding to infants. As infants are very prone to numerous diseases and infections, they must be taken care of very carefully. Full nourishment can be given to them in the form of mother's milk only. Why is mercury used in a thermometer? You all know that a thermometer is a device used to check the temperature of the body. Such use of a thermometer is not by chance, but because of specific reasons. Firstly, it is the only element which remains liquid at room temperature. As a general rule, it also expands linearly as temperature goes high. When we use a thermometer to check temperature, it starts expanding inside a thermometer. On the basis of the amount of volume constant mercury occupies, we calculate the temperature. It expands very low in response to daily change in temperature, which is also an important factor. In short, its high coefficient of expansion is the reason behind such use. However, it is very hazardous in nature and can cause harm if a thermometer gets broken down. So in place of it, red dye with alcohol is used now in thermometers mostly. Why is milk white? Milk gets its white color because of the nutrients it's made up of. Among the many proteins in milk, one such is known as casein, which is full of good for you calcium that helps keep your bones strong and your teeth healthy. Rich in calcium, casein helps contribute to the white color of milk. In addition, the cream that is found in milk contains white colored fat. The more cream in milk, the more white it is. Low and non-fat milk appears more grayish rather than white because it contains less cream. Another reason milk looks white to the naked eye is because some objects do not absorb very much light. Rather, these objects reflect light. For instance, red-colored objects reflect only red light and absorb the other colors of light in the rainbow spectrum. The molecules that make up casein and cream reflect light. That's why milk is white. Why is our blood red? The human blood is made up of two components, one being the plasma and other being the different types of cells, which have various functions. The red blood cells from the major part of the blood primarily give the red color to the blood. The red blood corpuscles have a pigment called hemoglobin that is made up of protein and iron. It is this hemoglobin that combines with oxygen that enters the lung and transports it to all body tissues. The carbon dioxide also attaches with this red pigment and is thrown out of the body by the lungs. Red blood cells have a lifespan of 4 months, and the process of the replication of these cells is continued by the bone marrow, which is the main production center of RBCs. The substances in the plasma contain carbohydrates, proteins, fibrinogen, and blood clotting factors, which further help heal injuries and fight against diseases. Why is our galaxy called as the Milky Way? Galaxy is a group of stars, large dark matter and dust bounded together by gravity. The Milky Way is a bar-shaped spiral galaxy whose diameter is 1 lakh to 1,20,000 light years. It contains 200 to 400 billion stars. It appears like a band of light from the Earth at night time. There are three major components of Milky Way: the halo, the nuclear bulge, and the galactic center, which contains stars. In ancient times, it was called as Milky Circle. In 1610, Galileo found that the light appearance of the Milky Way is due to billions of stars. The name originates from the Greek word galaxias, which means milky. Because of the faint white appearance in nighttime sky, it looks like spilled milk. Due to this reason, the name of this galaxy comes to be known as Milky Way. Why is space blank? On the Earth, we have light due to the sun. The layer of gases that surround the Earth causes light to reflect and refract. Space is a vacuum where there is no gas, solid or liquid particle that may cause light to deflect in the surroundings, giving an illumination just like we observe from the surface of the Earth. Despite the sun, stars and other heavenly bodies that shine as we look at them from the Earth, space or the background is totally black. The light therefore travels in a straight line without any dispersion, just like a beam of laser, which travels in one direction and gives a point which does not illuminate surroundings. The light of stars that we see is because it comes as a source in a straight line, but it is deflected of gases and particles that surround the Earth. Space does not have any light nor colors nor any scattering. Thus, it ultimately appears black. Why is the Earth round? The Earth is round because of the force called gravity. Most of you must be thinking about how the force is affecting the planet to be round. The gravitational force on the Earth, which binds objects and brings the ball back when thrown in the air, is one of the conventional forces that make the Earth round. If, for instance, the Earth would have had points or edges, the gravity would have pulled it back to its center. This central force manages to pull everything to its center and therefore makes the Earth very much round, without any ends or edges. The equal force gives the shape of the Earth like that of a ball. Gravity helps us to keep things on the Earth and therefore in a way has made living on the Earth possible. If it had not been there, the objects would have been floating without rest. Why is the sky blue during daytime and black at night? The sky appears as blue only when the sunlight enters the atmosphere. The sunlight is made up of a spectrum of colors known as Vibgyor or rainbow colors. As soon as the light enters the atmosphere, the colors all scatter as they pass from different particles in the air. The color in the light with the shorter wavelength spreads more, Violet color, having the shortest wavelength, is scattered all over the sky, but because human eyes are sensitive and cannot observe the violet color, we observe the sky as blue, which is next on the list or pattern of the color spectrum. On the contrary, the sky appears black at night because of the absence of sunlight. Without sunlight, the sky masks itself with the blackness of space. The moon, that is a natural satellite, shines because it reflects sunlight, which falls over it and shines when the earth is not receiving the light. Why does it snow? Snow falls from the sky, but where exactly does it come from? Snow begins in the atmosphere as water condenses into a tiny droplet. As more and more water vapor condenses onto its surface, the droplet grows. Cold air then freezes this water into an ice crystal. Each ice crystal has a unique shape that depends on the temperature surrounding air and water vapor content. If it is below freezing and there is a lot of water vapor in the air, the crystal grows 6 evenly spaced branches. More and more water vapor collects on these branches and freezes, making the ice crystal increasingly heavy. Eventually, the ice crystal falls from the sky, leaving the cloud of precipitation that it helps to form. As it falls, the crystal continues to grow by picking up more water vapor. As it descends, the ice crystal can come into contact with warmer air that makes it melt somewhat. This melting acts like a glue, causing crystals to bond together into larger flakes, forming what many people think of as the classic fluffy snowflake. If the crystals melt too much and then refreeze as they get closer to Earth's surface, the precipitation falls as sleet instead of snow. Why is the lemon alkaline? It is generally known by laymen that a lemon is acidic in nature, but you might feel confused if you come to know that lemons have citric acid in them, but water with a lemon has alkalizing effect on the body. Lemons have high pH value, which may vary between 2.2 to 2.4 depending upon their state of ripeness. But when a lemon is mixed with water and taken by us, pH nature of lemon changes during metabolic process and becomes alkaline form. This is because citric acid is weak and it becomes alkaline, forming in nature by the stimulating formation of calcium carbonate in the body, which later neutralizes strong acids in the body, including urine too. This is the reason why lemons are said to have alkalizing effect on the human body. This is not only the case of lemons but also with oranges, grapefruit. In fact, all fruits which contain citric acid in them. Why is menstruation needed for females? Menstruation is a common process of 28 days of discharge of blood tissue from the uterus cells of a woman's body. Peculiar methods occur periodically in a woman's life, and hence she needs it because it is a lifelong process, only interrupted by the pregnancy of a woman. It is needed because it is a part of female reproductive system. However, it also involves many hormones including sex organs and brains, which make it complicated. The main reason is that once the egg is released from the ovary of the woman's organ, then it gets started and occurs in a monthly life cycle. Another aspect is that when the egg is not fertilized, then it needs to be dissolved with the shedding of hormones. This also leads to the next hormone to be generated in the next half cycle of the menstruation process. All these hormones have an influential effect on the menstrual process. Why does the moon shine at night only? Firstly, the moon is not a light source, so it cannot produce its own light. It shines just because of the sun. Actually, at daytime, the sun heats the moon and some amount of light is radiated by the moon in daytime. But such radiation is of very low intensity in comparison to light radiated by the sun, so our eyes fail to see the moon shine in daytime. At night too, the moon radiates the light because of the absorbed extra heat from the sun. But in night, the sun is not there, so we become able to notice the moon shine. But in reality, it is only the truth that the moon has no capacity to produce light on its own. But yes, it shines even then in night because it radiates light only because of heat absorbed from sunlight. Without having the sun in the universe, we cannot see the shining moon in night too. Why can't mosquitoes transmit HIV? Mosquitoes are famous for distributing diseases like malaria, etc. to human beings. But you will be really surprised to know that mosquitoes cannot spread AIDS virus HIV. Actually, AIDS is spread by unsafe sexual relationships, by injecting HIV-affected blood to the body or by injecting infected injections. No doubt, mosquitoes also suck our blood by injecting their needle-like mouth structures, but even then, they cannot spread such disease. But a normal infected needle can cause so, because in the human body, T cells are present, by which HIV virus gets bound and starts replicating. T cells are perfect, specific host cells for HIV. So by infecting needles, HIV virus is welcomed and transferred into the other body. When mosquitoes suck the blood of an HIV-infected person, HIV gets into a mosquito's gust, where no T cells are present to host such virus. So the virus does not replicate and later gets broken down into the mosquito's digestive system. Why is night meant for sleeping? Sleeping is a process of reckoning one's state of mind and tiredness that keep the human body active. Logically, time is set such that it is worked according to the circadian clock, and also people prefer sleeping as night is taken for granted to be the time for sleeping. Night is meant for sleeping because in darkness, skin pores are open and they also breathe well, which is termed as skin sleep. This makes the skin looks more fresh and bright. In night, the breeze and moon's light makes the environment more pleasant for sleeping. The metabolism of a human body also allows it to sleep after dinner. One another reason for the sleeping at night is that a man needs maximum of 8 hours sleep for a brighter and firmer start next day. Darkness in the night stays for minimum of 8 hours. Hence logically, night is meant for sleeping. Why does an object float on water? Any object floats or drowns in water because of its density. Actually, at the depth of any liquid, there is an upward force because of the effect of gravity on fluid. If an object falls on it having less density than the density of fluid, it will float. If the object has higher density than water, it will sink down. In the salty water of the ocean, objects can float easily because the dissolved salt adds mass to the water more, so density of it also increases. When an object falls in it, it will obviously have generally less density in comparison to salty water, so it can easily float there. The object of lower density than water in which it has fallen floats to the top and submerges only by an amount as per the ratios of the densities. Fluid pressure will be the same in all directions. Why is the ocean salty? The ocean contains salty water, and behind such saltiness there are a few reasons. Firstly, rain when falls on earth contains the dissolved form of carbon dioxide, which causes rainwater to be acidic in nature, and also contains carbonic acid. The rain when erodes the rock, the acid present in it breaks down rocks chemically and carries salts and minerals along with it as ions. It goes to some river and then merges into the sea later. Unused ions get dissolved into the sea and salt is added. The second reason is hydrothermal vents, exit point on ocean floor. From vents, seawater seeped into the rocks of ocean crust and reaction takes place between seawater and the rock of ocean crust. As a result, the dissolved form of minerals and salt comes out and gets added to water. The saltiness of the sea always gets increased. 1 cubic foot of average seawater contains 2.2 pounds of salt. Why can owls see at night? It is a well-known, strange fact that owls can see well in a dark night too. Actually, in an owl's eyes, there are 2 types of cells called rod cells and cone cells. Cone cells help perceive colors and rod cells give the visibility factor. Rod cells in an owl's eyes are 10 times more than they are in human eyes. These cells help gather lights and make them able to see in the dark too. But pictures and sights what owls receive get blurred because they have less cone cells in their eyes, which help perceive colors. An owl's eyes are large in size and get support from neurotic rings. Their eyes are almost immovable, so they move their necks to see in their sides. Their eyes are in front of their heads and with 3 layers of eyelids which can be independently blinked. Why do pimples come on the face? There are multiple factors due to which pimples come up on the face. They are categorized as genetic factors, hormonal and environmental factors. As a genetic reason for pimples, it is very clear that due to genes, it is family inheritance. Suppose father has pimples on his face, then children can have them on their faces. In the hormonal case, hormonal changes are a major factor that can be seen on teenagers' age of life. As hormones change with age, our skin also needs a change, which can be a cause for pimples. One more factor in the hormonal changes is that disease that happens will change the hormones. The medicines we take bring about weakness which changes some hormones. Lastly, environmental factors come into play, where dust and dirt in the surrounding can cause pimples on the face. Also, the moisture in the face or an oily face will cause pimples on the face. Why is Pluto not a planet now? Earlier, Pluto was regarded as one of the 9 planets of the solar system, but on 24th August 2006, it was removed from the list of planets by IAU, International Astronomical Union, because Pluto failed in fulfilling all criteria set for being a planet. As per Resolution 5A, a planet must orbit the Sun, must have enough gravity to become a ball-like structure, and needs to have cleared its orbit. First 2 criteria were fulfilled, but Pluto failed in satisfying the third one because a new object was discovered beyond its orbit which was larger than Pluto. That object was Eris, and Pluto failed in clearing this from its orbit, which was the third requirement of being a planet. Here Pluto failed. Now both Eris and Pluto are taken as dwarf planets, and now we have only 8 planets in our solar system. The Earth has also failed in clearing asteroids from its orbits. Why does salt melt ice? Water can take all 3 states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. All such states are possible because the moving speed of molecules changes. Sometimes a question arises in mind: why on adding salt, ice starts melting? Actually, when salt is added, water molecules start running fast, so ice starts melting. In simple words, by adding salt, freezing point of water gets lowered and so ice melts. Salt is NaCl, and on dissolving in water, it breaks up into the ions of Na and Cl, which later prevents ice from forming more too. However, such effect cannot take place by adding salt if water even in little amount is not present with ice. Ice is coated with a thin layer of liquid form of water, so such reaction always takes place. Not only by adding salt, ice can melt, but by adding any compound having more ions, it can melt, as in the example of calcium chloride. Why should one wear cotton clothes in summers? Summer is the most dreadful period with the temperature rising to 47 degrees. To cool the body in this heat, the body tends to sweat, and to keep the body going in this sweat, one needs to wear clothes that are light in nature. Cotton, which is naturally grown fabric, allows air circulation, absorbs the sweat and does not permit the fungus to enter the clothes. It absorbs the heat and keeps the body cool. The reason being the light color and weight of the cloth that allows the air to pass through. The cotton should be comfortable and not body hugging. Moreover, cotton is the perfect cloth for sensitive skin as it acts against allergies and body odor. Stylish and classy, cotton is a perfect wear for summers. Why is snow white? Have you ever noticed that snow is white until it melts? Just like other things get their color because of the way light works, so does snow. When light shines onto earth, it shines a huge spectrum of energies that arise interpret as different colors. Snow and snowflakes are ice crystals mixed with air molecules. The air gaps between crystals along with the complex shapes of the crystals bounces the light beams around so much that all the wavelengths eventually get reflected out, giving it a white color. Why do some people speak without sound while thinking? Most often, reason behind speaking without any sign while thinking is because during thinking a person's mind is not in a situation of taking care of his expression. It has been noticed that when people lie to someone or if they do not agree to the situation, they make unusual expressions in their faces. These lead to speak on their faces without sound. Another main reason behind this is the way we talk, or rather it is directly affected by the movement of our tongue. When someone speaks without thinking or if they are the victims of some incident, then automatic wrinkles appear in their foreheads. They don't have control over it. To have a control over it, many go for the option of yoga and other meditation that help them keep away from the skin infections and aura of tension. Why does the sun shine? The sun is the main source of light for the whole world. But how it is possible, no one knows till 1905 when Albert Einstein gave us the theory of E equals mc square relation of mass and energy. This theory has answered the question very nicely. The sun actually shines because within inside the sun, fusion reaction takes place where a group of 4 hydrogen nuclei combines to form a single nuclei. It means the process of the conversion of lighter elements into heavier elements. In course of such reaction, mass losses, and this lost mass gets converted into heat, light and other electromagnetic radiations. This process is called nuclear fusion. In simple words, the sun shines because of burning hydrogen into helium. This process is continuous. The sun converts 5 million tons of lost mass into energy every second. This energy heats the sun and makes it so shiny. Later, when the earth or anything absorbs it, it gets heated. Why is rainbow always curved? Rainbow is the most interesting topic to talk about among kids as it contains 7 different colors, but becomes a must to be answered question when someone asks why it is always curved in shape. Actually, such curved shape is because of angle factor. A rainbow causes when sunlight gets split by water droplets into different colors. The water droplets reflect light at 40 to 42 degrees and those angles work out as curved with our eyes in the center of curve. So we always find rainbows curved. Sometimes sunlight reflects twice around water droplets and exists at an angle of 51 degrees. A second rainbow can be found. Every person has his own rainbow as light reflects at different angles, keeping an individual's eye in the center. Every individual finds his head in the center of rainbow. A rainbow can only be seen if the sun is in the back side of the individual. Why is vaccination necessary? You might have noticed that vaccines are provided free of cost. Even you have also taken some of such vaccines in your childhood for sure. All such is done to save us from being afflicted with specific diseases. Diseases are of 2 types. One is infectious disease, prevented by living in hygienic condition, and other is specific, which is prevented by vaccination. Vaccine is not any medicine in actual, but a tiny amount of germ itself of specific disease, and when it is injected into the body of person, antibodies are produced by body to fight against such germs. Such antibodies then win over and become ready to fight against such types of disease germs in future. The germs which are injected into the body of a person as vaccine are very less in number, so that in any way they may not affect the person. Why does water form drops? What happens in this world always happens because of some reason. Even water droplets are not an exception. As we know, water consists of H2O, where 2 hydrogen molecules are positively charged and oxygen is negatively charged. As we know, opposite attracts each other, so water attracts more water to it and forms big droplets. In water, hydrogen bonding is much strong. These water particles, along with the interface between air and water, attract strong cohesive forces. So in a water droplet, surface tension works, and as a consequence, it can change its shape as per surface level. You can witness this fact if you see water droplets on any smooth leaf like lotus leaves. Water takes the form of a droplet not occasionally, but even at the time of falling from a tap. It forms droplets, and when a drop exceeds a certain standard size, it falls after detaching. On such water droplets too, surface tension works. Why do we boil milk before use? Studies done on why we should boil milk before use reveal that after boiling milk, germs in it get killed. Hence, boiling milk is always a good deed for humans before using it. Not only this, boiling milk in a steel container will not allow the starch in the milk to be finished. Thus, the milk maintains its quality for a long time. On the other hand, if one does not boil milk, the presence of germs in milk can harm the drinker and can also lead to serious diseases. Milk is good for bodybuilding and good growth. Everyone should prefer hot milk. Experts in labs do experiments all the time. Their observations say that milk should be boiled before using at least 5 to 10 minutes earlier, and also for a day nearly 2 to 3 times. Hence, boiling milk is always an efficient thing to do before using it. Why do we need spectacles to see? In case of eye defects, each individual needs to wear spectacles or specs. They are called specs because of the main reason that they contain lenses. Lenses in the specs are also of two types. Convex lens is for the myopia treatment of the eyes, which is the inability to see things which are far away. On the other hand, concave lens is used for hypermetropia treatments, which is the opposite of myopia. Specs are very useful to them in day-to-day life. Apart from that, they are useful while reading books, traveling, and all other related work. Specs protects eyes from the dust and dirt around the environment. It is the duty of every eye doctor to prescribe for specs quickly if somebody is having any sort of eye defect. There are sunglasses as well, which protect from ultraviolet sun rays, but they are trendy and only suit for the good looks. But for seeing, specs with lenses are always needed. Why do we prefer cow's milk? Although there are thousands of people who use many animals' dairy products, including milk, there are millions of others who prefer cow's milk to other types of milk. This is due to the health reasons and the numerous benefits. Cow's milk is rich in calcium, which is the most essential element for the health of bones and the body. Calcium also protects cells from harmful cancer-causing chemicals. It also prevents headaches and the PMS symptoms during menses. Cow's milk contains gout, which helps fight arthritis and also has lots of protein, which is very important for the body. Cow's milk has vitamin B2 and vitamin B12, which are the energy providers to the body. Iodine, which is an important mineral for the proper function of the thyroid hormones, is found in abundance in cow's milk. It prevents the formation of kidney stones in the body and also plays an essential role in producing red blood cells. Why do we snore while sleeping? Snoring is really very common among people while they sleep. Such things happen because at sleeping time our body, mind and sometimes our mouth and throat muscle relax too. By such, air passage goes to be narrowed and then it leads the snoring. Snoring also happens when the person is suffering from cold because that time too air passage gets so narrow. Snoring is also possible if there is excessive bulkiness of throat tissue, if nasal airways are obstructed, muscle tones in tongue and throat are poor, etc. If snoring exceeds its normal limit, it can lead the person to serious health problems like daytime fatigue, poor sleep, irritability, stress, etc., which can later give birth to other serious diseases too. In case of severe snoring, the person can face complete blockage and later can get choked and gasp for breath for more than 10 seconds in many cases. Why do things float in space? Gravity has no range, so it will affect you, no matter how far you are from an object with mass. However, its effect does drop off quickly with distance. If you imagine that you were very far from the Earth and that the Earth was the only object with mass, then while you would fall towards it, the rate would be so slow you would probably not notice it. Astronauts are in orbit around the Earth, same as the Moon. The Earth is in orbit around the Sun. the sun is in orbit around the core of our galaxy. The reason they don't hit whatever they are in orbit around is because they are moving so fast to the side that the curved surface moves downward as fast as they move downward. Why doesn't it hurt me when I get my hair cut? Unlike when you accidentally fall down and cut your knee, it doesn't hurt at all when you get your hair cut. But why? If it hurts to cut your knee, shouldn't it also hurt to cut your hair? Even though it might seem like it should, you don't feel any pain when your hair gets cut because hair does not have any nerves. Nerves are little messengers inside your body which help to tell your brain when you are feeling certain things such as pain, temperatures like hot or cold, textures like rough or soft, and more. Lots of parts of your body have these nerves and they are very helpful with letting your body know what's going on. But there are a few parts of your body that don't have any nerves, so they don't feel any pain. Your hair is one of these parts. Without nerves, you can get a haircut as often as you want and you won't ever feel a pinch even. Why do bunnies wiggle their noses? Bunnies, rabbits mostly wiggle their noses as a way of expressing interest in what they see or think. A really fast wiggle usually means the bunny is really interested in something, while less nose wiggling means he or she is feeling calm and there's less to think and wiggle about. A completely still nose might mean the rabbit thinks it needs to run, or that the rabbit is really interested or confused by something. Sometimes bunnies also wiggle their noses because it can help them with extra breathing or smelling, or because it helps them to release heat like dog which pants. Have you ever tried to wiggle your nose? Why don't you try it right now? Why do dogs bite and how do they warn us? Dog aggression is a very complex topic, but in the dog's mind, its reason for biting may be quite simple. If it bites when its resources, food, its position on the furniture or a toy are threatened, it feels entitled to punish the owner for encroaching on its territory. The number of people who would believe that there is a generation of dogs intent on biting people for fun is quite alarming. Why do dogs bite? Well, let's be clear on one thing. Dogs can and do bite. Their mouths are their first line of defense and attack. When dogs do bite, the consequences range from shock, minor injuries, all the way to fatalities. Dog bites are in fact avoidable. A better understanding of a dog's body language can help us get somewhere near to understanding the reasons and motivations for its biting and serious attacks. Why does the lizard's tail grow back? Lizards have tails which they can cut down themselves to keep safe from predators. Such process is called autonomy, and later such cut tails can grow too. When a lizard's tail is cut, you can never see its bleeding because the blood vessel automatically minimizes and stops bleeding. On being cut, a lizard's tail wriggles around the floor. It seems that it will be generated again, so there is no loss to the lizard. But in actual, a lizard keeps its fat stored in its tail, so the loss of the tail can cause a lizard to feel deficiency. A new tail takes around 9 weeks to generate. In the beginning, you can see just a dark stump of lymph vessels. Sometimes the tail does not cut down completely. Later it heals. In such a situation, a lizard can have 2 or 3 tails. Lizards are able to grow new tails for them through limb generation.
Thanks for watching. Do like, share, subscribe to Sahil Book House.